Good morning, class. Today we are continuing with Module 9. We are on 9.3 of Invention Unit. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Okay, today we're going to continue looking at our spelling words for the week, as well as looking at the prefixes non and re. So when we add a prefix to the word, we put it in front of a word and it changes the meaning. So we're going to be looking at non and re, and then today we're also going to read our story, Inventions That Change the World, and then we will continue with our verbs, looking at past and present tense verbs, and then finally we will begin writing the rough drafts of our opinion paragraphs. All right, so looking at a game that you can play, this is putting them in ABC order, so looking at the first letter, so start going through the alphabet. A, so we have as, any, and ask. So if we have three words that have an A, then you look at the second letter. So we have an S, S, N. I know N becomes before S, so I'd put that there, and then we have as and ask left. So A, B, do we have any B words? Okay, so that is what you would do for that game. And then obviously check it. And then here is another game to practice our spelling words. So we can listen to it.
Scrap.
Scrap. And remember, we are looking at blends this week, so skr, skr. So I have an S, C, R, skr, app, P. All right, so that is what you would do to work on our spelling with Save the Burger. Okay, today we're going to look at two prefixes. Again, prefixes are part of a word that comes in front of the root word or the main word, and it changes its meaning. So we have
Non means no, not, or without. Example, nonsense, without sense. Re means again, back or backward. Example, rebuild, to build again.
Okay, so non means no, not, or without, and re means again. So another game that we can play. So it's going to be asking about us which prefix should be added to the root word in the sentence. He had to go back and blank read the paragraph. So non or re, and remember re means again, so it gave us that context clue right here. He had to go back. Whoop. So we'd type in re. She enjoys reading blank fiction books to learn more about birds. So if it's a book that you are learning information, we know it's true. And fiction means fake. So what would be not fake? Oh, non means not. So it would be non. So that is how you play that game. So here is our story. Yesterday we talked about questions that we had before reading. So we talked about inventions. Can you think of some inventions that you were curious about or inventions that you think have changed the world? I know technology, for example, cell phones is definitely an invention that has changed the world. So as we read the story today, pay attention to the questions you have during reading, because you will need to share one of those questions after you are done. And again, our vocab words for the week will be highlighted in yellow. So, and if you are on Canvas, Here's the spot right here. What was one question you had during reading? So as you listen to this today, if a question pops into your head, you will type that there.
If you had a time machine, where and when would you choose to visit? No matter what you choose, chances are what you would find would look quite different from the world we live in today. In modern times, we push a button and watch news from around the world. We click a mouse and send an email to someone on the other side of the world. We get in our cars and drive to visit a friend. Television, the internet, and the car are inventions that changed the world forever. We rely on them in our everyday lives. Let's hop in that imaginary time machine. Join me as we travel back in time to learn about some of the inventions that changed the world. Our first stop in the time machine takes us to the time when the wheel was invented. We are not exactly sure when the wheel was invented, so we'll stop at 3500 BC. We know humans were using the wheel then. Humans are clever beings. Because of our mental ability, we are always looking for easier ways to do things. We also search for ways to solve problems. Before the wheel, people carried things in their hands, on their backs, or on their heads. They were only able to travel as far as their feet would carry them. People wanted to carry more. They wanted to travel farther. This led them to create the wheel. After that, people made carts to carry heavy loads. Eventually, people created roads to travel in horse-drawn carts from place to place. Over time, the wheel had a huge role in the exchange of goods. People began to travel to markets to buy and sell food and goods. The wheel led to many other inventions, from farming machines to bicycles. Think of all the ways we use wheels today. They are on our cars and in our clocks. We ride huge Ferris wheels. There are even wheels in electric motors and engines.
So during reading, I'm really thinking, wow, that is true. We use wheels for a lot of things that we probably don't even think about. So obviously having that invention of the wheel definitely has changed our lives. And sometimes we don't think of things like Ferris wheel as being a wheel. But I also think it's interesting that because of the wheel invention, that led to other inventions. Because as people were buying and selling and trading goods, then they were having to create other things, some smoother roads or ways to farming machines and bicycles. So I think that that's very interesting.
Next, we travel to the 1430s. We see Johannes Gutenberg working on his printing press. Up until this time, books were printed by hand. Obviously, this took a long time, so books cost a lot of money. Only wealthy people could buy them. The printing press was able to print many copies of the same book or newspaper in a short amount of time. This meant an increase in the supply of printed material, which reduced the prices. Information in books and newspapers spread faster and farther than before. Knowledge became available to more people. With additional knowledge, people became more intelligent. This paved the way for better training, more professionals, and improved ways of doing things. Back in the time machine, we go to 1769. The next invention is the steam engine. Actually, steam-powered machines had been used for many years. As with most other inventions, people continued to improve them. For the first time, James Watt made it suitable for steam to provide a lot of power. Soon, steam engines could power entire factories. This made it possible for goods to be made faster than ever before. More products were made, too. Further improvements made it possible for a steam engine to power a boat in the early 1800s. They powered trains in the 1830s. Ships and trains took goods from the factory to other parts of the country and the world. People traveled by train and ship, too. The time machine takes us forward a few years to 1837. We see Samuel Morse and his electric telegraph. Telegraphs already existed at this time, but they were difficult and costly to use. Morse and his partners created a different method for sending electric signals along a copper wire. They created a system of dots and dashes called Morse code. The person on the sending end tapped out a message in Morse code. Each time the sender pushed down, it created a pause in the flow of electricity. This resulted in dots and dashes coming to the receiver. The receiver heard the sounds. He then decoded the message. Soon, wires were strung across the United States to allow the sending and receiving of the telegraph messages. The path of the wires often followed the railroad tracks.
All right, so the telegraph actually is kind of what led to the invention of the telephone. So it was a series of taps. So for example, someone had to have the code ahead of time. So maybe a tap tap was the letter A. Maybe a tap 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 would be the letter B. So there was definitely a series of taps and dashes that meant different things, and you had to have the Morse code in order to translate it.
Building on the telegraph technology, the telephone came next. We stop our time machine in 1876. We observe Alexander Graham Bell receive the patent for his electric telephone. The invention of the telephone was a process. Many inventors before him worked on similar technology. With the telephone, people were able to send their voice instead of beats over the wires. It was also possible to send multiple messages over one wire at the same time. Communication advances continued. People invented ways to send sound wirelessly. This led to the invention of radio. Images were quickly added, resulting in television. For the first time, one person could send messages to thousands of people. Shortly after the telephone invention, Carl Benz made one of the first automobiles. Let's visit him in 1885. Building on the knowledge of existing engines, Benz designed and used a different kind of engine. It ran on gasoline. Then Henry Ford improved the way cars were made. Ford brought the assembly line to car making. This made it possible for cars to be made faster and cheaper than before. More and more people were able to afford a personal car. The car had a huge impact on the way people worked and lived. Cars led to many new industries, such as road construction, tire factories, gas stations, and even motels. As cars and roads became more common, people began to move farther away from their jobs in town. Suburbs developed. People drove back and forth between home and work. They took vacations in other places. Additionally, the engine in cars led to the invention of the modern airplane and many machines. Let's return to our time machine for one final stop. We land in 1928, where we see Alexander Fleming in his lab. We watch as he discovers penicillin. This medicine allowed doctors to treat infections that used to kill people. Penicillin led to longer lives and the discovery of more medicines. Our time travel ends. We are back in the present day. Take a look around you. You most likely see some sort of computer. It may be in the form of a desktop, a tablet, or a phone. As with other communication inventions, the computer, followed by the internet, changed the way we interact with people. It changed the way we work and play. As with other inventions, computers led to other inventions. Imagine what inventions are still to come and how they will change our lives. Perhaps you have an idea for an invention. It may change the world. The end.
So a question that definitely pops into my head is, I wonder what the next great invention is going to be, and will that happen during our lifetime? Okay, so type in a question that you had. We're going to look at present tense and past tense verbs. So again, past tense, a clue is going to be an ED, it already happened. Present tense, if we see an S. Our opinion paragraph. So today on a scrap piece of paper if you can start writing your opinion paragraph. So yesterday you had to